first episode of A Path Through the Woods. It's the maple syrup episode, and what we're going to go through is a way to get outside, good activity if you have a small wood lot or a big yard, or a few acres, and some good maple trees. It's a good activity to get you out February and March, and you get a nice little bonus of a natural maple syrup at the end. So anyways, what we're going to go through is kind of the progression here and some of the things that I did. Now I'm only a second year maple producer, I guess. So last year, I have 3 big sugar maples on this property, and it got me to thinking that that's a great way to get outside. So through some Christmas lists, I got a nice little starter kit for maple. The taps, the buckets, and some of the other items to get started with it. So last year, what I was using was these traditional, which I love, these traditional metal buckets with the lid, and also you have the traditional metal tap, which has a hook. You put a hook on it, hang the bucket from the hook, and there you go. It worked out well, but as things often do, you think about it a little more, and things kind of progress. So last year I was taking these buckets, coming up every day after work. I don't live in the woods yet, but I was coming up every day after work and dumping these buckets into a 5-gallon bucket and storing them until I got to boil. So that worked out pretty well, but obviously as you think about it over the course of the next year, there's some ways to get rid of some of the things that made it a little bit more work than you want it to be. So this year I went with a new setup. I ordered some of these taps. I mean, you can make these with food grade tubes and buying the taps themselves, but I made them, or I bought them, 48 inches of tube into this plastic tap. So then after I get that into the tree, I then have a 5-gallon bucket with a lid and a spout. And what I do is I run the tube into the spout, keeps the bugs out, keeps the rain out, keeps the snow out, and all you should have in here at the end of the day is your sap. And if you keep it cold, you're good to go. So no transferring anything. I have 6 taps out. I bought 12 buckets. So all I do when I'm going to go out and collect, all I do is take the empty bucket, switch the lid, or switch the spout, and bring the sap out, and leave the bucket in there to collect for the next, till I can get out there again. So right now I have 6 of those out. I am going to probably go out. It's raining today, that's why I'm indoors. I didn't want the equipment out in the rain, so it's raining today, but if I get a chance, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do one more tap just for illustrative purposes. But I'm trying to get maybe a full gallon this year. One tip, if you do it, last year I bought these big bottles, thinking I was going to get a lot more. Then we ended up giving a lot of it away to the kids. I got kids in college, kids living elsewhere, and they're on their own, so I give them a little syrup, just as something for them to have, and of course we used it at our home. So but we got the real big bottles, and I think that the best way to do it, if you plan on giving it away, giving it to people, or selling it, which I do not want to get into selling it, because then it becomes a job. So I get the little smaller bottles. You can use even mason jars if you seal them properly, but little smaller bottles, it goes a long ways, and it's going to leave them wanting more, because they'll finish the bottle and they'll be asking you for a bottle next year. So that's kind of the whole thing, is building tradition through the woods. I mean, I'm big on what the forest can provide, and what I really like to do with my free time is be in the woods, and either work on, improving the woods for the wildlife, for anything that benefits us, or actually harvesting. I am a hunter. I do harvest deer every year. We take syrup. We have berry bushes. We have wild berry bushes, blackberry bushes, of course firewood, all kinds of things that we do throughout the year to keep us out there. But for me, the beginning of the calendar, once we flip the calendar, is maple season. And just enjoy it. We're going to get me from February 1st, to the middle of March or so, and then we start doing some other things in the nicer weather and without the big snowpack out there. So hopefully, I wanted to go through the basics. I ordered a kit. Actually got it for Christmas. Came with a little booklet. I read the thing. That's the education I had. 30-page little booklet that came in my tapping kit, 3-bucket tapping kit. I highly recommend starting that way. The one thing you probably want to get that doesn't come in the kit is a candy thermometer, they call it, for the final boil. You just leave it in the sap as it starts to get very syrupy, but it's called a candy thermometer, and it'll get you to the final product, because it didn't come in the kit, but it's something I had to order kind of quickly when we started the boil. So get yourself a kit, a candy thermometer, and basically once you boil down, you're just going to go into like a regular stainless stew pan, the one you would make beef stew in, the big stew pot, and that would be your final boil, and from there you filter it into your jar. So hopefully we're going to get a good chance today. I'll go out and be able to show you a tap and some of the tips there. I'm not an expert. This is all coming out of that 30-page little manual I got here, but it worked well last year, so I'm going to continue to use it as my backbone for this, and then give you little tips that I found that maybe worked for me a little better than what they were preaching in the manual. So hopefully we can get out there and we'll go find a maple tree and get this tapping. Hey, so we did get a little break in the rain, so I'm going to head out here and put a tap in. It's going to be into a 5-gallon bucket. So that'll give me 7 buckets out, 5-gallon buckets. So I'm hoping, that'll give me a good boil every week. If I can get to where the temperatures are right and the sap's running correctly, I should be able to get a good boil every week for at least 2 or 3 weeks, which will be more than enough before I want to get on to something else. But you probably can hear right now, the winds of change are blowing through here. It's supposed to be a very nice week coming up, which is why I'm getting these taps out. I actually got the bulk of my taps out last week, but I checked them yesterday. They really haven't started running yet, but I think this week coming up we see the 50s on Wednesday. We do have some rain moving through today, like I mentioned, but so I think this week we're going to have sap production, and next weekend we should be able to set up the boil and boil it off, and hopefully get through the whole process for you on here. But right now I'm just walking out. Like I said, I have 31 acres here. We're going to have a house up that way. You can see the flat up there. That's where the house is going to be. So we got maple trees. The area is known for its big sugar maples. It's called Sugar Grove. So, and maple syrup's big up here. We're in northwest Pennsylvania. So, sugar production is big up here. I have friends that have much bigger productions, commercial productions, than what I'm doing. But we're going to go down here. I found a nice looking maple. We're going to go down here and add this extra bucket. It's easy to get to, which is important because the snow can get real deep and then be gone, and then be ice, and then be rain. So, you want to be able to make sure that you don't have to carry a 5-gallon bucket too far. That can make for a long day, so unless you have a lot of help. But let me go down here. We'll get started. I'm on my phone now. I'll set the camera up down here and get a chance to show you what's going on. I do feel a couple raindrops, so I should probably get going. But I don't know how good the audio is going to be, because the wind is howling through here. You can probably hear it on my phone. You're definitely probably going to hear it on the video camera. So let me get down here, get set up, and we'll get this tap in, and then we'll wait for the nice weather. And next week we'll come out and collect, and hopefully get a good fire going and have that sweet smelling maple syrup boiling. That's something you can't share on video, unfortunately, but the boil off, that's about the sweetest smell you can get. So let me get set up here, and then we'll do a tap and show you what that's all about. And then we'll try to get back out here next week for the collection and boil off. All right, let me get set up here. Okay, we got out here. Got a real nice maple tree. Can barely get my arms around it, so it's a pretty good one to put a tap in. Normally what you want to do is face it south, southeast, where it's going to get a lot of sun. You want to tap on the side that's going to get sun, get the syrup or the sap running before it will on the back. So, I mean, it's going to come out of the whole entire tree, but if you get the south front, you tend to get better production, and I'm finding that on the taps actually that I put in last week already. So what I got is a 5-gallon bucket down here. I have the plastic tap and tubing that I showed you in the outbuilding. So essentially I have it going into the bucket through the lid. On this one I have some electric tape wrapped around it where it goes through the bucket just to keep water and things out of it. So then I want to kind of find a place where you got a pretty straight shot, you know, just to let gravity do its job. And what you want to do is you'll get a drill bit, or if you don't get a drill bit, if you buy a kit, they'll send you a drill bit that works with the taps that you got. So that's one of the reasons I did it as a beginner. So they gave me a drill bit, and on there they also tell you to wrap tape about an inch and a half up the drill bit. And what this does is it does make sure you don't go in too far. So you want to go in an inch and a half actually, and then you'll tap the tap in there until it gets good and snug, because if you don't get it in there good and snug, the sap will just come out around it and kind of bleed out. So you want to make sure that the only option it has is to go through the tap. So you know what I normally do is I pick some of the bark away just to get a nice flat surface. Then you drill on a slight upward, which makes sense. Just think of gravity, slight upward, not a huge upward, slight upward. It'll pull behind the tap and it'll come out just by using gravity. So we'll go ahead and do that. Alright, this drill bit's actually pretty wet, so I think we got a pretty good tree here. You also want to make sure that when you drill that you get nice blonde looking wood. You don't want dark wood or anything like that, because that means it's rotting in there. If you get a nice blonde, dark, or nice light blonde wood on your drill bit and sap, you know you made a pretty good tap. So now I'm going to get a tap in there. It's already dripping down the tree. I'm going to get my tap in there, and this bucket should be set to go. First I'm going to put the lid on tight. And I just bring a very small hammer, one you'd for like hanging pictures or whatever. Don't need a big sledge to put it in there. You just tap it in, get it good and firm, and then we should be able to kind of check to make sure we got good drip going through the tube, and we should be done. And I can already see the sap going down through the tube, so we're in good shape here. I no longer have sap coming out of the hole. It's now going all through the tap, which is a exactly what you want to see. Gravity taking it down. This was a pretty successful tap, and I'll bring my camera over and kind of give a closer look now so we can see what we're looking at here. But that's as easy as can be right there. Now the collection part and the boiling part, that's where a little bit of the work comes in. Okay, so here we are over at the tap site. See, I got the tap in right into the tree there, right into the tube, which goes right into the bucket. Now on the bucket, for this type of lid, I just drill a hole right through it, just the size of the tube. Kind of force the tube in a little bit so you get a good seal. Put a little bit of electric tape around the tube just to keep things tight as possible. And if you can, give the bucket a little tilt so that the water's going to run off, not pull around where your tube's going in, which this one should. I got some branches around here from this old maple that I'm going to put around it to make sure the bucket doesn't fall over as the snow disappears. But now that we got this one in, I'm going to walk up to the ones I did. Once I get my camera put away, I'm going to walk up to the ones I did last week, just kind of check on them, make sure all those taps are working as they should, that we don't have it leaking down the tree anywhere where we need to maybe tighten it in a little bit, and then we should be good to go next week. You know, we'll collect all this, and hopefully we got almost enough to get us a gallon of syrup on the first boil, and then you know, once nature takes over, who knows if we get another one. What you want is temperatures that are below freezing, like in the 20s at night, and then the daytime you want it to get to the 40s, low 40s. I mean, the high 30s were last week, and I didn't get much sap, so I'm going to say low 40s, even 50 during the day. But then after that, if it stays higher and the trees start to bud, it's game over. Once the trees start to bud, you're done for the year. And the other problem is sometimes the sap doesn't keep too well. If it's in the sunlight, 50 degrees, you'll see a yellowing of the sap. Your best bet's just to toss that. Don't ruin your product with it. Just, you know, cut your losses, you know, and take what you can get that year. Hey guys, got a chance to walk out here, and this is one of the trees that I did last week. It was a huge producer last year, just absolutely a huge producer, and you can see why it is a huge tree. And there's 3 of them up here. The other 2 didn't start producing last week, or this week. Yesterday when I checked, the buckets were still empty. This one, it's facing directly south, has some opening, and these buckets are actually almost full, so I'm not sure if I'm going to walk them out of here and replace them. Maybe this afternoon. I got the kids coming up. Maybe we can replace these. But I did notice on this one, if you look here, over this way, there's some wet. Sap wasn't fully engaged. I mean, this bucket is half full. So, you know, the sap's definitely getting to where I wanted it to go, but it's also running down the tree. So I came in, I gave it a good tap. It went in a little bit more. Looks good and snug now. So that's something you got to watch for. You just, you know, that's why I walked out here, to make sure all of them were working as they should. Hey everybody, it's been a week. We've had these buckets out for a week now. We really didn't have a huge temperature switch like you want to turn these buckets on, these trees on, but we did have one here that produced really well. So I'm going to show you the process here of swapping these buckets out. It's really easy. and it's a little more efficient than what we were doing last year. So let me turn the camera around and I'll show you what we're doing here. Okay, there's my son Joe's back there. We bring the buckets, the empty buckets, out in the UTV. Basically go to the tree, and there's a screw-on lid there. So we're just going, and let me walk over and I'll show you. All right, so what we have, got the tube coming into the bucket, and I just have the tube going through this screw-off lid. So what I do is get that lid off. You see I got a full bucket there. It's frozen right to the top, and it's kind of oozing out right now. So this tree really produced. We've got 10 gallons out of this. We've got a bucket on the other side that was also full. So it's 10 gallons. So then what we do, bring the new bucket over, completely empty. Take the lid off that, which I did not drill a hole through. Put it on there, just screw it back on. I got these buckets and lids through Lowe's. I really like this kind of with the spout on it. It makes it easier. But you can also just get the flat lid and drill right through the flat lid as well. But then you don't have a nice way to seal it up when you're transporting it. So 5-gallon bucket of sap here, which I'm going to have move out of the way. And then fresh 5-gallon bucket, back in, screw the lid back on, and I'm guessing this is going to probably be full by Wednesday, so I might come up midweek and grab this sap and get these buckets back out. But we got a really warm week coming up, starting Monday. Gets in the 50s. I think Wednesday's actually approaching 60. It'll be some rain. So it'll be a little wet and slippery, but get back up here and then put the buckets back out and then try to have a really good batch for boiling next weekend. Right now I only have about 14 gallons of sap, so I'm not sure if I'm going to boil tomorrow or not, because once I get this ice off of here, that'll be what I boil. That's another tip. When you get a bucket and it has ice on the top, just take that ice, pitch it. Because that is actually all the water, and that's just saving you boil time, because that's basically boiling all that off for you by taking the ice. There's no sap in there. It's the sap, the good stuff's at the bottom. So you take the ice layer off and pitch it, and then the rest, that'll save you boiling time later. Don't put the ice in the boil thinking you're going to get more sap. It's just going to increase your boil time. All right, we're going to hop over and look at the tree that we tapped last week, the first tree, a little smaller than this one, and we'll see how that one did. Alright, so we had a tree over there. It's an old sugar maple, but it had a section of it that didn't look too good. And it hasn't been producing any sap at all, which is highly unusual, even though the weather hasn't been perfect. We had a couple days there where it should have had at least some sap coming out. So I actually pulled those taps, and we're going to find some younger sugar maple here that are maple trees here. Not sure this one's a sugar maple, but and then we have another big sugar maple over there that we're going to tap. So, I mean, I had to move them because I do want to get good production, because this window is going to be pretty small. I think next week's going to be fantastic for getting sap, and then after that, you know, you get towards the end of March and it can close up pretty fast. So we want to make sure that when you only have 7 buckets out, 5-gallon buckets, that you get the sap when it's going to run, and I just didn't have any faith in that one tree. So we're going to move them here, and I'll show you the tapping procedure again, and then we'll collect from this one bucket. And then today we're actually going to move, the fire pit we used last year was over by my equipment shed, and this year we're actually going to move it over to the new building. That way when I'm boiling, I can do some other projects in the new building while it's boiling. So I will, we're going to take that fire pit apart. It's just made with cinder blocks, and we're going to rebuild it over here. So I'll show you the fire pit that we use to boil off this syrup. All right, so we found this maple tree. It looks like it's going to be a good one. One of the things you want to look at when you're tapping, you see this big root down here. This is a south-facing root. You got a big root, so you know you got a big sap highway right here going down into that root. So I try to go right above that. And what I'm going to do, again, I got a drill, got a bunch of tape, 1.5 inches up the drill bit. That's your stop point. Once you get to that, you want to stop so that you don't have too big of a hole into the tree. And that's all you need for these taps. So this is a 5/16 drill bit. It came with the taps. Last year they were 7/16, the metal taps, and you'll get a need a bigger drill bit for that. But anyway, so what you do is you find your flat spot you want to put where you want the tap to be. And I'm pretty sure we're going to have sap come running out of here, even though it's cold today. So you don't want to go straight in. You want slight upward angle to have the gravity pull the sap into the tap. So all you do is drill into your now if you look, we got really good blonde wood there. That's exactly what you want. That's a healthy tree. If you come out and it's all dark, that tree's not healthy, and that's not a good place to tap. And that might be what was going on with the other tree that I did last week. So all right, we got the hole. I'll simply take the tap, put it in there, get it started. Take a small hammer, doesn't have to be big. Get it in there till you get some resistance, and you should be good. And then again, simply with the system we used last year, by putting the tube through these lids, take the full one off, put that in my bucket, screw it on. You know, we got a lot of rain coming this week with the warmer weather, so this is going to really help, because there's not much rainwater going to get in that hole right there. And you know, we got a spout here, waterproof spout, so it's all going to be sap in there. It's not going to be a mixture of sap and rainwater like I had last year when I just used the traditional buckets. But so we're good to go here. I don't look like this tree's running quite yet, but it is like 26 degrees, so that makes sense. And we'll go check the other bucket, and then get on to building that fire pit. In order to build this fire pit, we either got to dig, or what we decided to do, looking around, is we have a picnic table here that had snow piled on it, 2 feet of snow piled on it. But the advantage is now we have bare ground underneath it. So what we're going to do is take the picnic table, move it off, and we're going to build our fire pit right here on the bare ground underneath. guys, we got that grid, and then we had some rebar, so we made the fire pit a little wider to get a little bigger fire underneath there to get the boiling going. But essentially, you know, so we'll have the pans on there, which you'll see tomorrow. So that'll be filled with the sap, and then underneath I'm just going to feed from the sides here. As you can see, you got an opening there. I'll just feed the wood from both sides to keep it nice and hot, and we'll get a good initial boil off here, and then tomorrow night, whatever we have, once it boils down quite a bit, we take it home in a big stew pot, and then we finish the boil with a controlled heat on the kitchen stove. Get a candy thermometer so we know when we got syrup, and we'll show you that as that process happens. Okay, so what we're doing here is we have sap in the 5-gallon buckets that we need to keep cold until this weekend, a couple days, so that we can boil it this weekend. So what we've decided to do is come out here where all this stuff slid off the roof. It's just big chunks of ice, as you can see. So Joe's going ahead and chopping that stuff up, and then we're taking it in, and we have the big 5-day coolers in there. So we have 3 5-gallon buckets in there, and then we pack these ice chunks around it, and it should keep it cold enough that it'll still be good to go come the weekend. So I'll show you the coolers once we get inside, but wanted to show you this because this was something we just kind of came up with. We were going to run up the road and get ice, and then we thought that's crazy when we got all this ice here. So pretty cool idea.
In the hang of it. I have to slice that one up a little bit more.
No, we got an empty spot in there, so we can put it in as a big chunk. So here we go. We got a big 5-day cooler. We just bring this ice in. This one actually only has 2 buckets in it right now, so we have about 25 gallons of sap, and we should be close to 40 by the weekend, if not over, so that would be great. Okay, welcome to boil day. We finally made it. We got about 40 gallons. Last couple of weeks we did have some weather that got a little warmer than we wanted, and also got some weather that got a little colder than we wanted. So the running wasn't as great as we thought, but we do have 40 gallons that we're going to do today. And I wanted to show you the boil pit. If you remember, we got the fire pit built, and so what we got is that rack. We got four stainless pans up here. I never fill them too high, just a couple inches as I burn. But and then from the sides here, this is why you leave the opening, so you can just keep feeding it from the side until your boil's complete. So, and essentially, this is the sap we collected this week. And all I do is whenever it starts to boil down a little bit, we go ahead and add a little more. Makes a heck of a sizzle. Don't let that scare you. And then we'll filter this when we take it off, because you'll get ash from the fire in it and other things. But when we take it off and go to take it home, we got 2 big stew pots that we'll take the boiled off product, and we'll filter it when we put it into the stew pot. And then again at home, once we start boiling at home, we'll also filter it again, and then again in the bottle. So if you're getting ash in here and stuff, I mean, I scoop it out as the day goes on just to keep myself busy, but really that's going to come out with filtration, and should have a good product by the end of the day. So beautiful day for it, and couldn't be working out any better. We got started about 9 a.m. Maybe 9:30 we had the fire going. Got this stuff on about 10 in the morning. So we'll see how long it takes to boil off 40 gallons. I think I got to get the fire a little hotter, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll check back in a little bit. So we've been burning, boiling now for I think about 2 hours, and we are through. I mean, we have dumped in about 20 gallons in the four pans so far. So we got about another 20 gallons to go, but it still has a lot of boiling down to do. But it's going along really well. Perfect day for it. Okay, we started with about 45 gallons of sap, and we are down to what is left in this one pan here. It's getting pretty close to syrup, so we're going to put it in the smaller containers, take it home, and finish it on the kitchen stove. So what we do is give it one last filter out here to get it in the pan, and then we'll also filter it again when we're making syrup at home. So take it off of here. Smells really good. Blue.
They'll be rock music in the background.
Yeah. Welcome back, everybody. We're now at home. Our probably about 45 or more gallons of sap is now in the bottom of this stew pot. And there's the candy thermometer I talked about before. It's hard to read here with the steam and everything, but you want to get to 219. So at 212 water boils. At 219 you have syrup. So all the water's boiled off and you have syrup left. And we're at about 217 right now. So it might take a little bit of time, but not too long. And we don't want to go too far above 219, because what happens then is you get a crystallization in your bottles if you get the syrup too hot. I just found that out actually, so I'm going to share that with everybody. But we got a couple more degrees to go, and then we're going to be putting it in the nice little bottles to give to our friends and family. So we'll get back with you once we get to that point. All right, so we finally got to the 219 degrees. So we have syrup. I'm going to say we have more than a gallon, which was our goal this year. And here is basically, we're filling these little jars because we're going to share this. It goes a long way, and truthfully it's more fun to share it than to keep it all for yourself. So we got smaller jars this year, 100 milliliter jars. And all we're doing is taking a ladle. We have a little funnel. We put some of the filter paper in there just to kind of catch anything. It's very clear. We don't have a lot of sand or anything in there, so maple sand. So we just take the ladle, put it in the filter paper, and it's kind of a slow process, but you have to do it to make sure that you're getting nice clean syrup.
And you did wash the jars first.
Yeah. And the jars we ordered these jars. And I ran them through the dishwasher and then rinsed them all out. But we put the little label on them, which is fun to do. So hopefully we have 24 of these when we're done. I think in a gallon there would be like 3,600 milliliters, which would mean we should be able to theoretically fill 35 or 36 of these. But we've got 24 of them, and then whatever's left over we'll keep for ourselves, and we'll put them in. These are the bottles we used last year, and we got about 3 of these, but it made it hard to share, so that's why we went with the little bottles this year. So we got Welcome back. We got everything boiled last night, and we ended up with about 3/4 of a gallon, and we were able to fill up 24 of these little bottles, which we're going to share with family and friends, and keep some for ourselves. But it was a good process, and we certainly had a tough year with the weather. The up and down weather, the forecast's not quite matching up with what they're supposed to be. My back issues. So it was definitely a struggle at times, but here we are at the end of it. We're going to pull the taps today after this, and I just wanted to take a minute and thank everybody for coming along. I think this episode definitely shows what kind of challenge this can be on the process that goes into it. And I'm sure a lot of people think, you know, why go through all that work just for not even a gallon of syrup? And it's really not about the syrup. I mean, it's really about bringing something forest to table, which I'm very big on. That's what I really like to do whenever I can do it. So it's forest to table. Plus I had all the kids, the family around while we were boiling and while we were collecting. And this is our second year doing this. So we also, in the process, created a family tradition, which I think is going to last a long time. I think my kids, my grandkids, every February and March, you know, it's going to be like, hey, are we doing syrup this year? And the answer is going to be yes. So it looks like a lot of work. We had fun with it this year with these little bottles. We actually can't wait to send them out to people. So you know, it's not really about the take home. It's about the memory and the memory and the tradition, and utilizing the woods and getting outside and getting away from the hibernation that normally goes with February and March, and actually getting out and kind of celebrating spring, because this is the first step here. The syrup is the first step, and now next week we're going to immediately go into pruning our apple trees. We also are going to be grafting some apple trees from Chris's parents' house, which is going to be sold. So we went up and got some apple whips up there today. So we're going to go right into that next week, and it's all about celebrating the part of the season that you're in. Instead of always looking ahead, it's about celebrating what we're in. And right now we got to anticipate the buds coming in the trees. And that's why I want to get my apple trees pruned, and that's why we got to get ready to graft, because once things start growing, you know how quickly it starts to go. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's long-winded at times, and I know I'm repetitive. It was my first episode I've ever done for YouTube. Some things I learned in the video part of it as well, including getting video from my phone. And just a lot of things like that. The editing, it's the first one I've done, but I hope you enjoyed coming along, because I enjoyed capturing it. It really makes it feel like you're doing something a little more significant when you capture it. Share it with somebody else, and who knows, you know, if this video happens to start a maple syrup tradition in your family, or just a hobby, let me know. Drop me a line, let me know, because I'd really appreciate hearing that. And you know, you might not do things exactly like I did them, but as long as you're getting out there and you're enjoying it, because that's why you take the path through the woods, because there's things out there you don't find anywhere else in life. And that's what I'd like to close the episode with, and wish you guys all the best, and we'll see you when we get to pruning apple trees next week. But till then, I hope you have a great spring, and we'll see you next time. God bless.